left out of your example. But let's take your analogy further. What if we made your analogy into the way you think the universe has operated? What you're going to have is some kind of intelligent person taking the grains of sand and just organizing them until he or she gets these complex objects. Now, I'll acknowledge that that's a possibility. That's a plausible hypothesis, but it's not as good as the one I have proposed. It's just not as good. The one I have proposed says that this process occurs because of the substance that you have, the energy that you have, and the natural tendencies that the substance have to organize themselves in certain ways.
Okay, I will add those properties that you require, and I actually brought some grain of sand here, okay, to kind of visualize what we try to do and understand. Now,
that's not marijuana or anything, is it?
No.
Okay.
It could be, by the way, because marijuana is nothing other than the arrangement of the grain of sand, so that's why it depends on how you perceive it. Now, what I'm saying that you see this grain of sand here.
You're going to clean this up after we're done, won't you?
No, because there's no different than everything else that you see here. Okay, now what you're saying that you're accepting that actually everything are made of the basic component element, and you accept that for the sake of analogy we can consider them as simple as a grain of sand. That's good. And then you accept that the other things and energy can be, you know, in this case described as a wind. That's good as well. Now, the thing that you think is missing in my analogy, you think that it should actually have a sticky property, and that sticky property it should be in a certain way. So I will grant this one to you. I will say, you know what, actually this grain of sand is kind of sticky, you know. It's like, so imagine that actually I put some glue here. And with this glue, there are certain type of sand can actually stick with each other. Certain type of them will actually stay away from each other. Will never stick with each other. That's the only thing that that's the only property of those basic simple objects, and the only thing that you have in from the Big Bang. That's what we have now. My point is that now when you have this grain of sands, the sticky grain of sands, and I try to make some wind. Now you're saying that if I actually blow it out, and if my wind, I have strong enough wind, and after all, whatever I get it out of this is nothing other than the arrangement of the grain of sand. We agree on that one. There's no change in the basic component, is the essence of the object. It's absolutely the same component. The only thing is that this grain of sand come here and arrange in a way, take this shape, this come here and arrange here, take this shape, this take this shape. Now, with the wind, and once the storms settle down, we go and look at every single product come out of this process. Now, you accept that the complexity of the process behind this production, this product, might be you don't accept that it will be, might be even more complex than the process behind man-made complex objects. But your point...
Well, I don't accept that it is the number of steps required to produce a hydrogen atom is the same or greater than the number of steps required to produce the Large Hadron Collider. We don't need to go there anymore. I think we disagree on that, and I think the burden of proof is on you to demonstrate that it's otherwise. But getting to your example, with substance, energy, properties of combination, and time, what you're going to get is complex structures. That's the history of our universe. And yes, if your analogy were to be fully realized in your sand here, that's what we would get. In other words, if we assume that the sand had properties of combination, and we had wind, and we had enough time, yes, we would get complex structures. That's what my model of the universe says will happen. What does your model of the universe says? Well, yours says that it takes you, or someone like you, an intelligent agent, whom you call God, to actually do the arranging, to jump right in there. I don't think that explanation is better than mine. I think it's worse than mine. I don't think it's equal to mine. Is it plausible? Yeah, it's plausible, but it's not required, and it could be otherwise. And what you're trying to say is my explanation is not plausible. It's not workable. It couldn't happen. And I think that's where you're wrong. It's certainly as good or better, I'll go farther, I'll say it's better explanation than yours.
Okay. I'm truly amazed. I'm truly amazed that how a rational mind can reach such conclusion. First of all, I think it's really great that you acknowledge that the reality of the universe is really not that different what I tried to describe in the analogy. I think it's really to get this level to understand that what we observe and experience today is nothing other than the product of those simple basic elements, and wind type energy is really important. I don't think many people get this point. I really appreciate that you are at this level and you really acknowledge that. But my point is that I will have difficulty to actually understand and accept that the arrangement of those grain of seeds somehow, if it's arranged in that way, I tasted it actually tastes an apple, and if it's arranged in that way, I tasted actually tastes an orange, and if arranged a little bit this way, and I tasted it tastes like banana. So, and I have difficulty to understand that actually how come those we'll say when you look at the quality of the product, the property of the product that we see in the universe, and you look at the property of the basic elements at the beginning of the universe, and you try to see the difference, the connection between them, and I am completely amazed. I will say there's nothing other than saying what I observe. It's a miraculous event. It doesn't matter what I believe about the source of miracle. It's absolutely extraordinary. From a grain of sand getting something more complex than computer, which called brain, from a grain of sand getting something more, as pleasurable as apple and orange and banana, it's definitely a miracle. It's definitely extraordinary. Now, to me, that extraordinary event cannot be the product of the wind and the sands. That extraordinary objects with the amazing quality and added properties cannot be explained through just the push of the wind or the energy and the simple nature of these basic elements. But it seems like you tend to believe in that.